The new Dorothy has just released on Black Clover Mobile, and today we're going to be talking about how you guys should be building this character, because I'm sure a lot of people are curious as to what skills you want to upgrade first, what skill pages you want to run on her, what gear you should run for her, whether or not she's actually worth like trying to dupe out, what talents you want to run on her talent tree, and then of course, most importantly, what teams is she actually like viable on and potentially useful on, right? Because this is a character that I feel like a lot of people are probably kind of unsure about, so today we're going to go over all of that information. Starting with her unique passive, it spreads one of the debuffs of the attacked target to all enemies. That is actually kind of crazy when you consider what Dorothy can do, and if you were to actually run her with another debuffer, think about that too. Think about that, okay? I think that's where a lot of people just aren't considering like that. That is a crazy unique passive if you have other debuffs from other allies on your team on the enemy. That could be really, really crazy. Okay, so her skill 1 is a Dream Magic Bullet. It is a single target attack, inflicts an extended debuff duration by 1 turn debuff on an enemy. Guaranteed. That is beautiful. If Nightmare is present on an enemy, inflicts a 15% reduced mobility debuff on them. You can use this anytime you want. It is 10% to start with. As you upgrade the skill, it becomes 20% if you get it all the way upgraded. A 20% reduced mobility any turn you want is pretty good, but they do have to have Nightmare on them, so keep that in mind. If Nightmare is present on the enemy, inflicts an extended Nightmare duration by 1 turn debuff as well. That's really, really good. Especially when you consider what Nightmare can do, it's solid. Skill 2, Dream World, inflicts a Disarm level 3 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns. That means they do 34% less damage. Inflicts a reduced crit rate level 2 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns. Reduces their crit rate by 35%. That is a direct counter to Black Divider Asta. Like, Black Divider Asta will probably still have enough crit to be freaking annoying, but at least it helps a little bit, right? That's less of a chance of him hitting a crit, because if people are building Black Divider correctly, they are building him with a ton of crit. So this could be very good just for taking on Black Divider teams potentially. And then if Nightmare is present on an enemy, spreads the effect to all the enemies except for the designated enemy. That's pretty dang good. And then if you have her skill page, you get an additional effect of magic attack reduction, I believe. We'll take a look at her skill page here in a minute. And then for the special skill, Magic Space Glamour World, 100% chance of inflicting Nightmare on an enemy for 2 turns. It is only 60% if you don't have it upgraded. I do have mine upgraded already, so needless to say, this is going to be your #1 skill to upgrade, because you want that to be a 100% chance to inflict Nightmare, because her entire kit revolves around Nightmare. And then additionally, inflicts silence on an enemy for 2 turns. Nightmare, what does that do? If the target with Nightmare present on them starts their turn, inflicts a random debuff level 5 on them for 2 turns. If the target takes damage, inflicts a 10% reduced mobility debuff on them. So this part right here, like, I feel like goes largely unnoticed by people. If the target takes damage, inflicts a 10% reduced mobility debuff on them, that's really good. And you got to take into account, if you have a character that has counterattack, or you have like Zora that can put the traps on, that counts as damage. So anytime they attack you, that counts as damage to them as well on their turns, and they're taking mobility reduction then. So not only on your turns would you be doing mobility reduction, you're doing mobility reduction on their turns as well. That's what makes this so insane, right? And then the random debuffs that can be applied at level 5 include Disarm, Incapacitate, Reduced All Attack, Reduced Crit Resist, and Reduced Defense. That is absolutely crazy. And then her combo skill, inflicts a reduced speed level 3 debuff on an enemy for 2 turns. That is by 55%. That's a pretty good speed reduction too. But I feel like if you had your choice, you're going to be using the special whenever you can realistically. So for upgrade priority, what skill should you be upgrading first? Absolutely 100% the special skill. Then I would say skill 1 to get that reduced mobility, and then skill 2 is just damage. So like, you can do skill 2 or the combo skill. It really doesn't matter. Both of them are just damage. So either one of those for the last slot, but do special skill first, skill 1, then skill 2 or combo skill for upgrade priority. Now in terms of skill pages that you can run on her, I did not pull her skill page, so I think this is a really, really good option as far as like free to play options go, and most people will have at least a copy of this. You may not have it max dupe, but most people will get at least a copy of this for free. just from summoning. So max HP plus 20%. That is very, very good on her. Anything that's going to give her survivability, though, like if you wanted to run this right here, 56% increased defense and 7.6% increased HP recovery. Moonlight Necklace is also a very good option for Dorothy. I feel like those two are very good free-to-play options. You could also run other skill pages of other characters who do similar things. But basically, any skill page that gives HP or gives defense, I feel like is going to be fairly good for Dorothy. You could also run other debuffer skill pages on debuffers if you want to just give you the different effects that any of these debuffers could give. But honestly, I think you want to focus more on skill pages that are going to give you survivability. So I do think, like, genuinely, this is probably one of the best skill pages you can run on her outside of her own skill page. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't think her skill page is all that great unless you have it max duped, because if you don't have it max dupe, I don't feel like it's going to be nearly as good. So her skill page right here inflicts a 60% reduced magic attack debuff on an enemy for 2 turns. That's all you get. You don't even get 100% reduced magic attack. It's a 60% chance with a single target attack. If it was a multi-target attack, I would say it's okay, but it's not. It's just a single target attack, so you have a 60% chance. And then additionally, the passive skill, upon attacking, if an enemy has a debuff, there is a 20% chance to get 1 SP back. If you have this max duped, sure, it's great, because then you have a 100% chance to get SP every time she attacks, and that lets her get her special back faster, and her whole kit relies on her special to get the nightmare, right? That would be really, really good. So if you have the skill page max duped, yes, it's the best skill page for her, but without having it max duped, I would really honestly kind of say it's not worth it. It's honestly probably not worth it. Inflicts a 60% reduced magic attack debuff. Sorry, I said it a 60% chance to activate. I read that wrong. Inflicts a 60% reduced magic attack debuff on the enemy. That's decent, but it doesn't do anything when you're going against, like, I would be using this mainly against, like, Black Divider also to reduce his crit rate. He doesn't have magic attack, so that's not going to help me much. And that's what everybody's running right now is Black Divider Asta, right? So reducing magic attack doesn't help a ton. Okay, so like really the skill page kind of leaves me wanting a little bit more, but if you max dupe it, yes, then it's the best skill page. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So like I said, those are the skill page options. That one I do think is probably the better option. Now, in terms of gear, what can you run for her? You could run a couple of different things you want. You could run defense if you wanted. You could run HP, like I'm running 4 HP pieces right here, but you could also definitely do 4 defense, large defense pieces, and then your other options are going to be magic attack. You want the main stats on these to be magic attack down here. As for sets, what sets are you going to be going for? You're going to be going for a 3 set typically with this type of character, and you're going to be going for an HP set for sure. You're going to be going for a mobility set for sure, and then you have an option. You could go for a defense set like this, where you have 2 defense pieces, or you could go for this set right here. I actually don't know what the name of it is. I have to look. Abandoned Teddy Bear set, which obviously I only have 1 piece of here, but I would want the HP version. So I would want to put the Abandoned Teddy Bear set on this character, because what does this set do? It grants 20% reduced damage taken if HP is equal to or higher than 90%. So if you put 2 pieces of this set on Dorothy, it's obviously going to give her more survivability in that early game, which can be very, very beneficial. But if you don't have enough pieces like myself, then you would want to run the gold defense set. Now, what do I mean when I say gold defense set or gold sets in general? If you go to grade and you go to sets, you can pull up all the sets right here. All these sets over here are just your basic normal sets: attack set, defense, HP, mobility, and then over here you have the better version of those sets: gold attack set, gold defense set, gold HP set, gold mobility set, right? Gold sets are always going to be better than regular sets because they give you percentage boost that give you more stats overall. So having 2 pieces of this HP set, I get max HP plus 7%. So that's pretty dang good. So these are the sets you want to run. This is kind of how you want to set up your character. In terms of substats, what substats should you be going for? Number 1, if you're doing the HP set, you want to go for HP percentage. Increase your HP as much as possible to give her as much survivability as possible. Number 2, defense percentage. I would say go for defense percentage, especially if you're going for a defense set. Number 3, I would divide it up either between crit resist or damage resist. Either one of those is fine. Crit resist or damage resist are both fine. I would go for one of those 2. So it's HP percentage, defense percentage, crit resist, damage resist kind of is what I would go for. This piece right here is a pretty nice piece. The only thing I would change out right here is this HP. I would change that for like crit resist. If I could get a piece with defense percentage, HP percentage, damage resist, and crit resist, I would call that like the perfect piece, right? That would be really, really nice for me. But I don't have that just yet. I got a bit more rerolling to do, rerolling stones, Kind of a pain to come by, but that's generally how I would build this character right here. And then as for enhancement, should you be duping her out or not? So at 2 dupes, upon attacking, if Nightmare is present on an enemy, grants self a 20% increased mobility buff. That is helpful because keep in mind you're going to be lowering their mobility, giving yourself more mobility, meaning she gets more turns and more chances to extend her Nightmare, which is really, really good. And then if you get her to 5 dupes, you still get that same effect, but then additionally, at the start of a battle, inflicts buff immunity on the enemy with the highest all attack for 1 turn. That is solid because that means if you're able to stop someone who's fast, like for example Julius, from getting buffs, then that's going to help you out immensely, so he's not going to be able to nuke your team, so that just gives her more survivability, gives your team more survivability in that early game. So having her duped out is good, but if you were to ask me, like, is it necessary to make use of this character? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I would say getting 2 dupes is good enough. 2 dupes is good because it gives you that extra little bit of mobility, but even without 2 dupes, this character is going to be useful to you, in my opinion. So you do not have to dupe her out. I would say going for 2 dupes is nice. 5 dupes, definitely not necessary, but I digress. Let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. As for talents, the attack tree literally does not matter. Whatever you guys want. You could go, honestly, probably go like crit rate. No, not crit rate. I'd probably go like, where are we at? Oh man, if we could change it. What do we want? Damage dealt. Yeah, I would go these 2 probably. Damage dealt, crit damage. That's probably what I go for. Damage dealt or crit damage, or you want to go for these 2. These are your options. Magic attack and increased crit rate. So you could go for these 2, or you could go for these 2, the damage dealt and crit damage. On her, it doesn't really matter. She's never going to do the most damage, so I wouldn't worry about it too much there. As for the defense tree, I would definitely go for the defense plus 20%, and then I would go for the stacking defense and crit resist just to give her more survivability. If you did want to give her debuff immunity, you could go for that as well when her HP drops below a certain amount. Just that way she doesn't get debuffed and she can still do the things she needs to do. But I feel like these 2 are generally like the better options for the defense talent tree. As for the support talent tree, you could go for swiftness, give her SP back when she has less than 2 SPs. But honestly, I feel like that's not going to help her a lot when you don't have her skill page max duped. If you had her skill page max duped, probably worth it because then you're going to get SP back faster from the skill page and from this, right? But without the skill page, it's just like, I think skill 2, having that is going to be better because skill 2 is what allows you to disperse the Nightmare to multiple people. So having a 20% chance to grant skill 2 reduction means you could have your skill 2 up faster potentially and spread that Nightmare again quicker, right? So I think that potentially is going to be a better option than having swiftness. And then of course, besides those 2 options, I would 100% have damage resist because damage resist is just going to give her more survivability in general. Okay, so that's how I built her talent tree for the most part there. And then that just leaves us with talking about teams. Now for teams, I put together a couple of different options here of teams that I think would work, teams I've seen other people use, and they've had work to some degree. So I can't guarantee that all these teams work perfectly, but a lot of it comes down to how far you have your character built, right? And how much survivability Dorothy is going to have, so just keep that in mind. But this team works pretty good. It's just a variation of a team with Black Divider Asta, right? Like plenty of people use a similar team, so it's fair to say that you can just slot Dorothy in here and have her be useful with spreading the Nightmare, right? So Dorothy, being a debuffer, right? Being a debuffer character just in general allows you to slot into pretty much any team, but right now Black Divider Asta is of course meta, so if you want to run her on a meta team, there's a meta team for you. Another option would be to run something like this with the new Raya. Now Raya is not meta, he's very niche, but I just love the new Raya, so any chance I can, you know, show him off a little bit, I like to. So you can run this team right here where you have William to speed up, you have Valkyrie Noel for all the stuff that she does, the defense, the ability to give invulnerability, you have Dorothy to do the Nightmare as well. This is just another option for a team you can run. You could also run a team like this where you have 2 attackers, and these 2, you know, if you if you use these attackers, you know what's going on here. But she could be very good in unison with these characters. Notice Valkyrie Noel's on like every single team here that I suggest, so just keep that in mind. Valkyrie Noel's invaluable. And then this team right here, I think this team could cook potentially. This is my own personal, like, I think could be crazy team because as I mentioned, every time they get hit while they have Nightmare on them, if they get counterattacked, that gives reduced mobility. Well, you have Charlotte who gives counterattack, you have Luck who extends counterattack, and you have William who extends counterattack. William can heal. He gives fortify. He has built-in damage reduction on himself. She can give damage reduction with a combo skill if you want. And then you have Dorothy who can do the mobility reduction. And so that's going to allow the rest of these characters to pop off. And then when they're not popping off, the enemy team's attacking, these guys are counterattacking, reducing their mobility, and then Dorothy can also potentially lower their defense or disarm them or whatever else she can do, because it's random with the Nightmare, right? But with the Nightmare, that could just allow Luck to pop off as well. I feel like this team could be very, very interesting. I'll have to try it out and do some testing and maybe a showcase for it, but I feel like this team could be really, really good. But in general, that is how I would build Dorothy. These are the teams I would run her on. And if you guys did enjoy the build guide, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you all so much for watching. Peace.